Hey all, XR student here. Today we're going to look through my bin of abandoned things and just see what's there. I've actually had this bin for probably 8 or 10 years, and it's just been sitting in the corner of a room and collecting dust and not doing anything worthwhile. So I figured I'd show you some of the things I've collected with friends when exploring abandoned buildings, and just show you some cool history and photos of what we found. So what we were first looking at were a bunch of photo slides. Now we have some labels and medicine. It's crazy all the things that people left behind at these abandoned places. You cannot believe the medical records and history and books that people have not gotten rid of, forgot about, or should have gotten rid of it, but never did. So the things in my bin are from a lot of places. Abandoned schools, churches, hospitals, mainly hospitals, and just wherever we could get into that was cool to take photos of. And it was crazy what you could find. Here, the compilation I have of these things are just stuff that I'm not too sure which place I got it from because it doesn't have a name and I didn't take a picture of it. But I still thought it was cool to look at and see what people left behind. Because, when do you ever get to play with all this stuff and look at it all? Especially from, the 70s or 80s or 90s. It's all old things. And even, some of the designs or labels or makeup of something is totally different compared to what it looks like now. I've also blacked out any names or doctor names or any addresses that could be affiliated with someone because I'm not trying to show people's actual life. I'm just showing anonymous things that I've found, and it's kind of messed up that other people left it there for anyone to find, like a dopey kid. But now, 10 years later, this stuff is just junk to me. I threw out a lot of it. I maybe kept an ornament or a plate, but I don't need blood slides. But it was cool at the time to collect and look at because I don't know, it was just an achievement, a treasure hunt for all of these unique things. And I guess at the time I felt like I was keeping part of history. When are you ever going to find these business cards with random numbers to help you on it like you did back then? It was pretty insane to me, so I think I just was fascinated with all of the things that I could find. And now I'm sharing it with you guys. Now we're getting into our first section, which is an abandoned station and hospital. Here was a police station that may have been a hospital first or vice versa, but there were so many files and reward posters with actual people's faces and crimes on it, which was pretty cool, but also kind of concerning. And it makes you wonder, what happened to this place to make it turn up like this in all those photos that I'm showing you. You explore it, and it's an unanswered question of, who lived here? What did they do? What were their jobs? Why is there a motorcycle inside? And you just learn little bits from the pieces that you find, and then you try to create a picture. You try to figure out, geez, was this horrible living? Was this, I don't know, scary? Was this someone's worst time of their life? Was it a fun time? Probably not if they're in a psych ward. Yeah, it was just interesting to see people's old life or homes or rooms and what it has become. And like I mentioned, a lot of these pictures are from 10 years ago or a little bit less. So a lot of these buildings are definitely not in the same condition. There's probably not as much stuff, a lot more broken things, from vandalizing or graffiti or whomever, but when my friends and I would explore, we would do it to take pictures and document and see these beautiful buildings for what they are and what they were, and just try to enjoy them. And it became, for a bunch of dopey kids, photographers, our playground. We can experiment, we can use lights, we can use costumes, we can come at any season, day or night, and just become artists. Like, just do what we wanted and truly admire the life of these dead buildings. Part of going to these places was, 1, to say you did it, 2, to show it on Instagram, even though it's like so stupid and silly now, and 3, to take cool photos, just to see if you could get that shot. But something I liked doing when I went to these places was researching them. I would watch documentaries and read articles, anything I could get my hands on to learn about this place and what it was, why it closed, any accounts from people who actually lived or worked there. And sometimes you would even meet up with people who had family members who worked in those places, and they would tell you firsthand accounts. It was so insane. And I think a lot of people, they might not always admit it, but when you walk by an abandoned building, 1, it looks a little scary, but 2, you're pretty interested and you might peek in a window or 2. And as long as, like, you're just taking pictures and documenting, I think it's fine to look around as long as there's not a big police presence, because no one's trying to get arrested or tickets to pay. Yeah, I don't think I would go in now, but I do love seeing all the stuff that I have in the past. And like I mentioned, a lot of these places had stuff lying around. Like at Rockland, they had an entire room filled all of the floor with blueprints. So, like, me taking like 4, it had nothing in comparison to the rolls and the entire room was carpeted with just blueprints that they just left there to rot and get moldy and wet. And it was such genius stuff. It was so cool to see the inner workings of the buildings and the tile work and the little designs. Now, being older, I wouldn't take stuff, but it was just lying there. Not saying what I did was okay. At Rockland, it was a psych ward, and there was so many things in the kids ward. There was a cool bowling alley. There was theater things, like dress up, and it was just really interesting to see what life was like for people who lived there. Fortunately, but unfortunately, there were a lot of things left in the child's ward, like I mentioned, but this included pictures of kids and paperwork and stuff for personal things that probably should have been taken care of. I say fortunately because we were able to see what life was kind of like for them, like their routines or their play toys or movies or books that they would read. But if I was a parent or even just being a teacher, seeing children's photos everywhere and journals about them, especially in a hospital or psych ward, I just personally wouldn't be happy about it. I would want that stuff kept somewhere secret or destroyed. So Letchworth was actually shown in a Ghost Adventures episode. I did not feel anything at all there. In a lot of the places that I've explored, I never felt anything. There was probably one mansion that was kind of abandoned, kind of not, that I've actually had an experience, but not here. One of the things I really liked about exploring was seeing the architecture and the little details of the buildings, because sometimes there was cool arches, beautiful windows, or interesting paintings that were left behind. Most abandoned places are usually emptied out because people come to sell things, or they destroy things, or the state comes and takes things. But if you get lucky, some places are filled with things. Like, there was literally letters for a letterpress in this place. And it builds a story and shows you the history of a place when there are things left over. This abandoned church was really cool. I think it was a school as well. It was definitely risky to go in. We had to go in at like 5 a.m. when it was dark, and when we had to sneak out, it was very terrifying because it was light out and you didn't want anyone to see you to get arrested. But this place had really cool details. The chandeliers, the windows, the walls. Everything was just made so much nicer, and people need to get on their shit and do this kind of stuff again. There's something about people who design churches that just know what they're doing. I love the stained glass and the wood details, all the shapes. The organ was gorgeous. Middletown was another psych ward. Again, blueprints just laying around. And a lot of stuff. This house I was actually legally allowed to explore because my department and I went in to make sure that it wouldn't collapse and it wouldn't be a fire hazard just in case it did go on fire and we needed to save it. This place, I think it at one point was part of a college, but now it's just abandoned. I don't know if it was turned into anything else. But you got to see a bunch of desks. Catskill Game Farm is actually an abandoned zoo, and only until after I went here did I show my mom and talk to her about it, and she said when I was a little kid, I went here when it was actually open, which is pretty insane. So I got to see it as a child, and I got to see it up close and personal with nothing in it. There is security and there are cameras, so I don't know what it looks like now, but back then, I don't think I would try going in again. I thought this was such a unique experience. My friend and I went in all of the exhibits and swung on the tires and swings in the gorilla exhibit and got to see the back end of a petting zoo. I loved this abandoned mansion. We went when it was barely touched and barely graffitied, and then we went when it was also ransacked of the cool gargoyles and window pieces. So it was cool to see the before and after, and also sad. But the details in this place, I'm in love. And the dark wood, of course. The ceilings, yes. The piano, wonderful. Here are a collection of x-rays from different hospitals that I've gone to with the people's information blocked out. It was so interesting to see what was going on with these patients, what was hurting them, what was broken, what was not correct, or just a checkup. And also to just see x-rays back then. I love anything that has to do with bones and anatomy. Now I tossed all of them because it's not my place to have them. It's not mine. So now I just have the videos and pictures of them, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed looking through my bin of abandoned things and my photos from these places. Hopefully it inspired you or gave you a little bit of insight of what it's like back then in a few of these places. If you liked my stuff, you could check out my Instagram, TikTok, or Etsy. Please leave a like, comment, or subscribe if you would like to. And I can't wait to see you next week. Thanks. Bye.